We all good? All right. Everybody good? Can you hear me? Do I need this? Do I not need this? Does anyone give a damn? You what? All right, I'm here. Hiya. I'm Jordan Modell, and I chartered one of two credit unions that were actually allowed to charter last year. One of credit union in New Jersey. We were the first one in 50 years that was a full-service credit union. There is a trick to this, and we will talk about a lot of the things to do if you want to start your own credit union. So it's essentially how to start a credit union in 5 songs and 3 dance steps. We'll figure out whether we actually make you get up and dance, though. All right, so credit unions. How many people know exactly what a credit union is? Exactly, okay, it's about half. Very cool. Hang on, so this is kind of like going in slowly. Credit unions are all not-for-profit. The cool part about that is they can't be bought or sold, so that you can start anything else you want, but it can be bought out from under you. You can't buy a credit union out from under somebody. They're viewed fairly favorably by everyone. We'll get into that later. Place you can trust, la la la. Can't be bought or sold from underneath you. They're also a lot bigger than you think. Basically, 1 in 3 Americans has some affiliation with a credit union of some sort. And there's about $690 billion in assets. So what does it take to have a credit union? Well, I will now show you a picture that very few people, aside from former wife, have seen before. Me at 3 years old. So, oh God, you can't really see it, but if you could see the picture, it's really clear on mine. You essentially see my mom standing there really sternly and me just dancing along. This is the spirit that you need if you really want to start a credit union. You need to be able to buck society. You need to be able to say, no matter what, I'm going to dance through this thing. So, how did the credit union actually get started? So, I have a friend named Brewster Kale. If you don't know him, Google him. You'll be fairly impressed. Essentially, Brewster started this thing called the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine. I'm assuming you know something of one of those. So I started my career in banking, and for 17 years I had to have Brewster tell me, banks suck. You should start your own bank. So finally one day, we were sitting on his couch about 2.5 years ago, and he started again, banks suck. I'd long left banking. And I sort of said, well, all right, I'd started my own business. At that point, it was a good time to look at something else. And I said, all right, let's take a look at this. And I realized there's no way you could ever build a bank that you would be proud of. Because A, it can be bought out from under you, and B, the requirements were just amazing. So sitting on his couch, we decided, all right, let's go build a credit union. So you need some inspiration in all of this stuff. My inspiration in this was that big banks are pretty evil. When I started this in 2010, there was an amazing statistic. Bankers were about to pay themselves their bonuses, right? So the bonuses in the banking industry were $143 billion. If you took a look at the debt of all 50 states, it was $139 billion. So you could have paid off the debt of every single state in 2010 when we first started to take a look at this with the bonuses the bankers paid themselves that year. So I sort of say back to, the other thing was, okay, well, how are we? What card do you have in your pocket, right? So who are you supporting? If you've got a Bank of America card in your pocket, well, they know their CEO makes $25 million. If you've got a Chase one now, well, it jumps up to $28 million. And if you saw today's paper, they have to pay $11 billion in fines for screwing us over, which, of course, you, if you're a Chase person, will pay that. Or a taxpayer, you'll pay that. Or my favorite one these days was Fifth Third. Now, Fifth Third was indicted, and they were actually one of the only people to get indicted. And of course, no one went to jail, right? Because they paid money instead. So how did they deal with being indicted? Well, they raised their CEO's pay 50% in 2012, and then they decided that wasn't enough, right? Because they're a small bank here. They'd raise it another 25% to 7 to 9 million. So Wells Fargo, if you've got one of those cards and you think they're nice and cool because they're in San Francisco and they're really sweet, think again. 23 million for him. So what are the 5 things you need to start a credit union? Guts. That was the little me dancing routine there. Here's how it works. One, most credit unions take supposedly 5 to 6 years to charter. We did ours in 19 months, and we got a full service charter, which again hadn't been granted in God knows how many years. You have to have you have to be like that Broadway audition person or the person in a con conference who hits on the pretty girl. It's gonna be tough, okay? You're gonna get a lot of rejection. So just work your way through it, dude, okay? Next thing, patience. They literally will try your patience as you go on in this process. They will invent things to say that's wrong. I counted up, there were 4,296 changes they wanted to my application, okay? Some changes were, I think that your comma should have been here instead of here. They would literally send back an application because of that, right? Some changes were, I think your assumptions were perfectly great this week, but nah, I read a newspaper article and I don't think they're great this following week, right? Just deal with it, realize the regulators, realize what they're trying to do, and in certain ways, honestly, and I understand why they're trying to do this, they're trying to wait you out. They're trying to see whether you have the commitment to go through with this. Support. You have to have the support of whatever community you're in. We'll define the field of memberships and community charters, et cetera, but you need support. One of the first things that they will ask you, no matter what your credit union is they will make you do a survey. And you think, oh, great, I know how to do surveys, right? And because this is what I used to do for a living, right? I used to write all this stuff up and I did this brilliant survey and I put it out there and I got lots of responses, 10 times as many responses as they required. And they came back and said, no, you really should change it to this. What they don't tell you, and I will tell you, is on their website, they say exactly what the survey looks like. Give that to them. I don't care how brilliant your survey is, give them back that survey. That's what they want. But the next thing, financial. You need to prove that you can make it through because I'm actually predicting that we will be the first credit union in 70 years to probably break even by year 3. But they haven't had one, right? So they're basically looking and saying, there's no way you're going to break even in 5 years. No one you'll ever talk to at the NCOA has been around that long to ever see a credit union break even in 5 years. So you have to prove that you've got the financial wherewithal to live through that. And a sense of humor. It never hurts. They have none every once in a while. Yeah. So you have to have your own. This includes, showing up in their offices with baked goods. This includes making light of things when they're being patently petty. There are actually really interesting people there. There are probably at least a third of the people there are really cool. They really want to give you your charter. And then there's about a third of the people who really don't want to give you your charter, and there's about a third that don't care. So you have to get through all of that, and trust me, a sense of humor helps. So you have to have a belief in something. Originally, our first name, I put this out there in my blog, was We Don't Suck, because everybody else does. So we figured we should refine that a little bit and ended up with the Internet Archive Federal Credit Union, or ICU as we're commonly known. So what are our beliefs? You have to have, whatever it is, you have to really honestly believe this. It can't be bullshit, because they'll see through it, you'll see through it, and you won't make it through unless you really believe that. So we believe in the community. We believe in people's rights to privacy. These are our core stuff. We believe in open source. Anything that we do, which is why later on I invite people to buy me drinks and I'll tell you anything else that's not covered in here. Anything we do is open source. You can ask me anything at all of anything we've ever done, and I'll be happy to tell you. And we believe that big banks don't believe in any of that. So what are credit unions, right? So we kind of view ourselves as the original farm-to-table movement, right? We are ingrained in whatever community we're involved in. Credit unions have fields of membership, which we're going to get to in a second. But one of the beauties about credit unions is we don't compete with each other. There are a few credit unions out there that actually think they're banks and they compete. But for example, in my little area, the community that I'm in, there are 5 credit unions, and not one of us would compete with each other. Matter of fact, one credit union gave us our furniture, another credit union is loaning us a loan officer, a third credit union is giving us collateral stuff, a fourth credit union is helping on our t-shirts. But essentially, credit unions are one big community. And the reason I thought that would be really cool, I'll show you in the next slide in a sec. Oh, I'll just go here for a sec. So here's a true story about when we were chartering our credit union. Brewster, who's fond of doing things like this, decided that I should go speak at a conference before I knew anything about this, right? I'd been at this maybe 3 weeks, right? I had never tried chartering anything. And he said, go speak at this conference. Great, you'll have fun. Okay, great. So what's the deal with the conference? Well, it's you've got 5 minutes to speak. It's one of those things, rapid fire stuff, right? And then they have 10 minutes to ask you nasty questions. So, all right, fine. So I went online and I saw these really cool videos, right, about what is a credit union and what does it do, et cetera, except there were 13 of them, right? So each one was about a minute and a half, so it was about 20 minutes worth of videos. So just, again, this is why you need nerves, patience, and a sense of humor. It was by a Canadian credit union. So I called up the CMO of the credit union and said, hi, I'm Jordan. I'm giving a speech next week. I really like your videos. I want you to send them all to me. I'm going to cut them all down to 1 minute. I'm not going to give you credit. Is that okay? And I swear to you, the next day he had messengered at their expense all the videos over to me. And I was trying to picture like going up to Citibank saying, I really like the commercial you got on now, right? And I'm going to cut it down, and then have a lawyer at your door, like, you know, before you finish the sentence. They'd be taping you. So this is actually what I came up with. You'll tell me if you like it or not, but this is concatenated 13 videos, or everything you ever want to know about credit unions in 59 seconds, and you might like the Canadian accent. Hang on one sec. See if I can get this.
Credit unions are democratic. When you make a deposit, you're buying a membership. As the board is also made up of members, decisions are based on what's best for the people. Yay! Banks don't have members, they have shareholders. Credit unions are based locally, and therefore can make decisions locally. A loan, please? Oh, I don't know. Let me just make sure Toronto is okay with that. It would be more like this. Hi, I'd like a loan, please. Okay, I'll help you set it up. Credit unions are rated higher for customer service than any of the big banks. A lot of it has to do with how each financial institution defines service. Credit unions see it as knowing your name and who you are, along with your financial goals. A similar variation in perspective can be noticed with things like community involvement. It's all about people helping people. So, if helping people was a race, credit unions would be way in the lead with nothing holding them back. Banks, well, they'd be a little weighed down. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so I thought that was pretty cool. They sent it to me, so I got inspired and said, "All right, we're going ahead with this stuff." So this is us. So the first thing you need is a logo, right? And you know, before you do anything else, you got to have a logo. So have mission, have logo, we'll travel. For those of you into old TV, it's kind of like have done, we'll travel. Okay, all right. No one's old enough to know. So, all right, you're saying enough already. What the hell do you really need? So the first thing you need to do, which should scare the heck out of you until I finish this talk, is to go to ncua.gov. Those the regulatory body that regulates credit unions. They're kind of a funny bunch. Technically, the head of NCUA reports directly to the president. They don't go through the Department of Treasury. They don't go through OCC. I doubt that Obama has ever met the head of the NCUA. I think one of his aides way down there does, but the head of the NCUA is actually a really nice person. Her name is Debbie Matz. She's actually one of the most forward-thinking people they had in many, many years. Anyway, so go to their website and take a look at their chartering manual. Now, the chartering manual is several hundred pages and scary. There's a place called the Federation. The Federation is a federation of small credit unions. They will help you out. They have their own version of that. So you go basically from this giant website with hundreds and hundreds of pages of legalese, and the Federation has a book that you can get for $50, which will tell you this is the loose translation of all of that. And the third thing is they have a new office headed by a guy named Bill Myers, who's also really cool and knows how to drink. And Bill basically is one of the few people in the NCUA who came from credit unions. That's one of the surprising things you'll see. Almost nobody in the NCUA has ever been in a credit union. I mean, not physically been one, but worked in a credit union. Bill has. He spent his whole career there. And he runs a SCUI, which is basically stands for the Office of Small Credit Unions Initiative. Little I in there somewhere. Anyway, so Bill's office is actually, they're the ones who will help you the most. However, okay, so let me tell you the absurdity of the NCUA sometimes, okay, until basically you can thank me, I corrected this. So originally, I went to the SCUI office and I met all these guys and they said, great, we'll help you charter, right? We'll help you write your manual, we'll help you do all these other things. So I went to, so that's one office, SCUI, right? The other office are the people who charter you. And I had a guy who I will not name, but essentially I went to him and I said, okay, I've got an SCUI officer and he's going to help me. And he goes, okay, sorry, but he can't. And I go, why? He goes, well, you're being paid. And I'm going, okay, well, what's the difference does that make? He goes, well, you could resell his services. I'm going, all right, a little absurd, fine. So I've obviously volunteered for a couple of months not to get paid, right? So I'm now like living without pay for a couple of months. I go back to him and I say, all right, I'm now not being paid. I really want to use the SCUI officer. And he goes, well, no. And I say, why? And he goes, well, you have to go to them and then you have to, appeal. There's an appeals process. I said, great. He said, call this number. I called the number. Secretary answers. He goes, oh, sure, I'll get you to the person who looks at appeals. And he picks up the phone and says, no. I swear to you, this is exactly what happened. All right, so I ended up cornering Debbie Matz and Bill at one point, and I said, this is absurd, and they changed the rules. So now you can actually do that and be paid and charter a credit union. So, crazy people. Anyway, so part two, how do you charter? So when all else fails, dance. Here are the few dance steps that you need. Let's see if this actually plays. No. This is a time warp. So your first step. All right, so I'll turn this off. Okay, so you don't have to see me dance. All right, so first thing you need to know, and the first thing you need to decide is back, okay. All right, field of membership, FOM. They love their acronyms like anybody else does, right? Okay, so FOM is field of membership. So what happened was the banks love suing the NCUA. That's basically, they wake up and they sue them pretty much every week, right? It's like, what am I going to do today? Oh, let's sue the NCUA, yay. So this is no bullshit. What happens was they said, oh, credit unions don't pay any taxes. So you must have a limited field of membership. Now, never mind that none of these big banks pay any taxes, right? But that's a whole nother story. So you have to have a field of membership. You need to decide what your field of membership is. And there are three. Count them three. But there's actually a fourth that you can try for. So Nietzsche once said, when given only two alternatives, take the third. Anyway, so the first one is called a low-income community charter. There's actually two forms of community charters. So one is low-income, one's non-low-income. You want to be a low-income community charter if you're going to go that route. Why? A, they're much more likely to grant your charter if you're a low-income community charter. B, you get lots of perks. The first and biggest perk is you have what's known as a capital ratio. You have to have 7% capital ratio, right? So you have to have 7% of cash on hand. By the way, a big bank has 1.9%. But hey, again, anyway. So if you're a low-income credit union, you can accept secondary capital and it goes straight to your capital ratio. What does that mean? If you can get someone to give you money, right? So let's say you have $1 million in deposits. If you can get someone to give you 70 grand, then you're okay. Okay? If you didn't have that, someone gives you 70 grand, it doesn't go towards your capital. So it makes life a lot more difficult. So you can have, but it's a community charter. Now, what's a community charter? Your community charter could be 1 million people. All of San Francisco could be in your community charter, right? It depends on how you define your community. All right. Next up, segment. This is how a lot of credit unions started, and you'll see them now. You'll have the Apple Credit Union. You'll have the Boeing Credit Union. They're huge, by the way. They're kind of dominant. The Navy Federal Credit Union is bigger than most banks. Pentagon Federal Credit Union. So you're a segment, right? So you're whatever. You can also be what's known as a cross bond. And a cross bond is essentially you're both, right? You're like for Northwest Airlines, is anybody who's an airline pilot or works in the airline industry or lives in Minneapolis or Los Angeles or wherever the hell their hubs are, right? So you can be a cross bond. That's what you most want to be. And I try to loosen that up, but I don't know, how well they said I couldn't do that immediately. You have to, when you start a credit union, you're under what's known as an LUA for 2 years, which means a letter of understanding. So what they do is they have the right to look at you really, really carefully for the first 2 years to make sure that you're not doing anything bad. So of course, sometimes we do things bad, but okay. All right, hence the t-shirt. Okay. So, I love the Spice Girls. So this is the tell me what you really, really want, right, slide. Okay, so the next thing you need to do, as I said before, is you need a survey. You actually have to prove to the NCOA that the people that you want to serve actually want to be served, right? So if you're like a casino, where they've been granting Indian tribes, for example, if you have a casino tribe, then you interview the people coming into the casino and say, or the workers in the casino. If you're a community charter, you have to get a representative sample in the community. And their requirements are really small, so it has to be like 300 and something people. You should go well above that. Now, what's interesting is they never asked to see. I had all these papers like collated, and I presented to them on Excel spreadsheet. They were like, wow. Excel spreadsheet. You basically, most people just type the stuff up and say, oh yeah, 90% of the people loved me. I would do it legitimately. I'm expecting one day someone is actually going to ask for this stuff. I've got it in storage. But yes, you need to do the survey. You need to do the survey their way. Don't do a survey until you run it by them, right? Send them the survey that you want to do, and they're really, really tricky. It's the single most, I know I'm like harping on this stuff, right? But it's one of the single most important things. For example, if you don't mention mortgages, like let's say you want to do mortgages, if you don't mention mortgages on your survey, they'll go, there was no interest in mortgages. 0% of the people said they were interested in mortgages, right? Right? So you need to craft your survey. I can't tell you how important that is because most of the things come back to that survey, and that's what they'll do. All right. So these are the things you need to survey. Competition, the people, the segment, right? And if you need help on your design of the survey, this is my first pitch for a drink. Buy me a drink and I'll help you design your survey. All right. So next up. All right. Kudos for anybody who can tell me who that is. He's dead. He died young. The song's titled Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Warren Zevon. Anyway, so to get your business plan done, you need lawyers, guns, and money. So you really need to have, here's the interesting thing. The people who are looking at your business plan, right, have never written one. The people who are looking at your business plan are regulators. And what they're looking at is, does this business plan fit my regulations? Not does this business plan make sense? If you mention a hockey stick once, not only I throw up, but they will walk out of the room, right? None of those projections, none of those whatever. They want to know, do you have, like, does it make sense to a normal person, right? So they want to know why you, right? Why is your credit union, the area is well served anyway, obviously, because, people exist in it before. Unless you're opening up a credit union in a forest. So why you? The next thing I want to know is, how will you break even? That's their biggest thing in there. At some point in time, you're going to have to break even. They don't expect you to do it in 5 years, but that is. 3-year pro forma. I can't tell you how many times we went over this pro forma. I probably, of the 4,296, got about 1,200 of those. We're going over the pro forma again and again and again and again and again. Work with your SCUE officer, or again, if you need me, that's going to cost you lunch. Pro forma is your financials on how you're going to get. So, for example, what products you're going to offer, how much you're going to charge for them, when will you break even on them, what are your costs, right? What are your costs of your employees? What are your costs of your rent? What are your costs of So it's a pro forma balance sheet predicting how much it will cost to run your credit union, right? And when you'll break even, year by year by year by year by year. And it's one of those crazy things where it defies logic sometimes. So you'll come in, and I had this pro forma, and we were saying, okay, the riskiest things are loans, right? The safest things are fees, right? So the head of the NCUA says, great, get lots of fees. So great, I built in all these products that had lots of fees, and they looked at me and they said, nope, sorry, it's too much money in fees. I'm like, but, don't argue, right? So they basically will come in and they'll say, I would just cut your fees in half. And you say, yes, right? And you say, that means I'm going to do a bunch more loans. They go, sure, you're going to do a bunch more loans, and you're going to get a bunch more money out of that. So you just you have to be very careful, have a sense of humor, and listen carefully to what they're telling you. They will tell you what they want to see on that pro forma, right? Arguing, futile. All right. So your submission. So my submission was 586 pages. And there are 3 P's on that, your policies. Now, the cool part about credit unions is they will generally share with you the policies. Make friends with one. They'll say, what's your policy on ATM, ALM? You have to know all of these things, right? You have to know the difference between ALM and AML, right? ALM is asset liability management. AML is anti-money laundering. They're big on anti-money laundering. They're not pro-money laundering. Anyway, so hence again. Anyway. So policies, you need to get your policies in order. You need to review them. You need to make sure that they work. So if they've been vetted by somebody else, generally then they'll have to accept them. Your procedures. So how do you do things, right? So how do you approach different things? What are your procedures? Your accounts. So what are you going to offer, right? They will tell you that they'll happily grant you a charter, and the only thing you can do is have savings accounts and small loans. And you will tell them, how on earth am I going to survive if I can't have a debit card or online banking or any of the other things? And they will say, oh, I don't know, it's really difficult to do those things. And then you'll go back and you'll sort of talk these things through. So you need to have the accounts that you're going to have and how to get them done. All right, so that's what's going to cost you if you haven't helped that. Guess you got a sleepover. Okay. So what did we do, right? That's interesting. Should be a picture on there. Maybe not. Okay. So step 1, we exist. It's really dark. Hang on a second. Does that lighten it up? No, it doesn't lighten it up at all. Anyway, that's Brewster and me in one of our original things there. So oddly enough, once you get your charter, something else is going to happen. They're going to never tell you when you're going to get your charter, right? So you're going along 16 months, 17 months, 18 months, whatever it is, right? And they're going to walk in one day and say, guess what? You get a charter next week, and I want you to open. And you're going to go, WTF? And they're going to go, yeah. You have to understand, time to open. And you're going to go, we don't have any of these things in place. It doesn't matter. Physically open your doors. And even if your board is there and 2 people drinking beer, you have to open your doors. Okay? So then you open your doors and you go in and you tell them, all right, I've got like 5 people doing accounts. So this was, the other thing I would say is make good friends. So for example, that's the Mexican Consul General for New York, because we were dealing in the Mexican community. So have someone famous come in there. You notice he's the only person there opening an account that day. But we got him there, we published this photo, and everyone said, what a success your opening was. Oh my God. Okay, makes you happy. All right, and then, so step 3, change the world of banking. I honestly got into this for sort of 3 reasons. One is the big banks drive me crazy, but the second one is, and it's even more important to me, to encourage other people to open up credit unions. There were 300 credit unions closed last year and 2 opened, right? The credit unions are dying. And part of the reason they're dying is because their technology sucks. And we are so desperate, right? Believe it or not, you'll go on our website and if you sign up for an account, you can go online and you will call me up and make fun of me. We are technologically head and shoulders above 90% of the other credit unions out there, right? We're tiny and we still have all these things going. We need people who are really smart. You're obviously smarter than me, right? So you can tell that by now. So we really need people to actually build these things out, right? So please, anyway. That's my, oops, wrong way. There you go. See, I told you I'm not smart. And then afterwards, we go back and dance. So this was actually a traditional Mexican dance troupe, and it would look cool if it wasn't so dark, dancing at our opening. So I will. So how do you sign up? Go to our beta site. I love critiques, nice ones, hopefully, without any four-letter epitaphs in there. Just tell me what you think. Tell me how we can be better at this stuff. Open an account. And this is how you can contact me. That's my personal email. Use it. I'm happy to be contacted whenever you like. The reference, if you don't get it, is Little Prince. Anyway, so I figured I would rush through this thing so we'd have time for like real questions and personal attacks. Yes, go.
What is your field of membership?
So our field of membership is a low-income community of New Brunswick and Highland Park. However, there's an interesting little thing in there, which is you have to live, work, worship, go to school, or be a member of an organization that fights poverty in that local area. So when we define that a little bit better, that's how people can join and actually help the community. We've raised many thousands of dollars for the local soup kitchens and Mexican immigrant groups in our area.
Have you seen Money as Debt, and do you have any comments about it?
No. Is it good? Is it interesting? Is it a documentary?
I think you would like it.
Okay, I will see it for real.
Money as Debt.
Money as Dead. Can I find it?
YouTube.
YouTube?
Anyway.
Really? Okay. I'm definitely.
Put it on right now.
I would. I'm way up for that. Money is Dead.
Money as Debt. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Okay. I read the book Dead, which is also interesting.
You talked about dealing with federals, but what about the state? Do they have figures in this as well?
No. So that's an interesting thing you need to decide early on. It goes like this. You can have, you can have a state charter or a federal charter, right? If you do the federal charter, then the state has nothing to say. If you do a state charter, then the feds actually can do whatever they want anyway. So that's why we chose the federal charter, because it doesn't matter, right? So you can have a state charter, and then you'll have two sets of people looking at your books and regulating you. You'll have the NCUA and the state. Because the state will go in and say, sure, we'll open you up tomorrow, right? And then the NCUA will say, sorry, no, you can't. So that's why we did that. And so we also, for example, so we can have technically we can have offices anywhere, right? And we can deal with anyone from any state. Any other people aside from the front row? Yeah, okay, fine. Second row. We're gonna work row by row back on this shit. Good.
So you're saying your field of membership is you run whatever.
Right.
But you're actually hoping. I mean, you call yourself the Internet Credit Union. Are you really hoping for sort of a national? I mean, how does that?
So eventually, within the confines of our field of membership, we would like people outside that. One of the other things that's kind of cool is if you're a low-income credit union, you can take 20% of your people or $3 million in deposits from non-members from anywhere. So it's FYI. And so we're technically, again, our name is Internet Archive Federal Credit Union because that's our sponsor. So, all right. Is there any other rows? Okay. Jeez Louise. I can't. There you go. Okay.
From a business perspective,
Yes.
what kind of money can you expect to generate, or income can you generate?
Oh, if you're in it for the income, don't do it, dude. Don't do it. So like, no. I mean, you're not for profit, right? So there is no such thing as profits. B, it's not like, again, I have this argument with Brewster all the time, right? So, he's used to internet ventures, right? Where, basically everybody says, all right, I'll work for peanuts because I'm going to get a billionaire when I sell this. And you go, no one's selling anything, you know? So you can expect to have food on your table, possibly, and go to the movies. But no one in this, aside from like the really, really big credit unions, makes money at these things, right? I mean, it's like, I'm not starving, right? But on the other hand, I'm not going to be buying a Mercedes anytime soon. Yes.
My big credit union, is it like a university credit union?
No, university credit unions are about the same as us, right? Big credit unions are Navy Federal. They're like a $10 billion credit union. There's there's a local one called Affinity near us who've been really good to us. But okay, so to answer the question you're not really asking, right? What it's like someone making a credit union? Okay, so CEOs of credit unions, they did a survey. The average CEO, and this takes the biggest ones and the smallest ones, makes about 100 grand, right? So it's like a normal programmer salary. The people underneath it make like $12 an hour, right? So you don't go in this thing to think that you're going to make money. You go in it because you want to make a difference, and that's what you want to do. So if I've scared you off, okay, good, because I want dedicated people. Okay, yes. Oh God. All right. Here's the deal. The government has kind of pulled an interesting, tricky thing right now. Okay, so this is the analogy that I use. Let's say you want to open up a restaurant. Okay, you go in and you call the local city ordinance people, right? And you have a health inspector come in and you open up your restaurant, right? Everything's fine, everything's cool. You got your space, you're doing well, and then you decide one day you want to serve liquor. Completely different set of regulations, completely different FBI checks and mafia checks and this and this and this, okay? So essentially, here's the kind of trick in as far as these things go, right? You're a Bitcoin business, right? And this is what they did to Mt. Gox, right? And you go in and you say, I'm just a regular business and I'm going to register with FinCEN and I'm going to be whatever it is. FinCEN comes and goes, no, you're a money service business, right? Because you've got that extra set of regulations, and I'm going to seize your accounts. So what do Bitcoin firms do? Everyone runs over to FinCEN and goes, okay, I'm a money service business, don't take my accounts. So then what happens? Can most people deal with money service businesses and that level of regulation and that level of whatever? Probably not. So you're kind of between a rock and a hard place. Personally, I think this stuff is going to get worked out. I think that I've met with some FinCEN people, I've met with lots of people all over the place. I think that honestly, the best hope for the Bitcoin community and for the regulators is to say, okay, we'll regulate you and we'll put you in a bank or credit union or whatever it is, because that's the best way of finding out what's going on. Otherwise, it's going to go underground and back to the Silk Road, which I don't think anybody wants. Yes?
No, I did.
Huh?
I want to go back there.
You wanted to go back to the Silk Road. Okay. I'm not too fond of hitmen, or at least none that I know. Yeah.
What's your elevator sales pitch?
What's my elevator sales pitch for what? You're not a pretty girl. Sorry. What? No. What's my elevator sales pitch for what? As a member. Okay. So our general elevator sales pitch is that big banks are evil and they're using your money. So what are we? Okay, so for $3 a month, you get a complete total account. You get online banking, you get checking, you get savings, you get an ATM debit card. We don't charge fees on any of that stuff. Plus, we're completely transparent. If you ever get charged and you say, call me up and say, what do you get charged for? I'll tell you why you got charged and how much we got charged in between, because everybody else has their hand out. So you can use your ATM debit card anywhere in the country. There are 60,000 locations, and we're a lot friendlier, and plus I can dance. Okay, back to the front row. Is there nobody? Okay, wait. I promise I'll come back to you, I swear. Go ahead.
Sort of curious, in terms of security,
Yes.
ACH sucks.
Right.
There's another thing out there called Dwala. Are you guys looking for that?
So Dwala actually almost got shut down, as you know, or don't know. Oh yeah. Well, so what happened was they got spanked big time because the thing back in Dwala is a place called Veridian. It's a credit union out in Iowa, right? During the Bitcoin debacle, they got caught out with 1.5 million of money outstanding. Now, it may not sound like 1.5 million as much to you guys, right? It basically almost brought Viridian and Dwolla down with it. So they're on very tight probation right now. Love Dwolla, use Dwolla. And so I think what we're going to see is what's the next evolution of Dwolla, right? But keep in mind two things, and this is important, and it's going to sound anal, but it's really not, because I do understand where they're coming from. The first 2 years, you have very limited things you can do, and they look over your shoulder, right? Because they want to make sure that you're not in this, like, one of the things we got accused of is chartering just to do Bitcoin, and which is totally untrue, right? You know, when we first started this thing, Brewster certainly knew about Bitcoin, but I didn't. I learned, I like, you know, whatever, but you need to fight through some of the perceptions, right? And get on steady ground and prove that you are serving the community that you chartered to do. Once you do that, then I think, you know, you can do new stuff like Dwolla, right? And like what I think will be the next iteration of Dwolla. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, and that's what that remember that cross bond thing, right? So you could go in and you can say, hey, you know, we're this, and then you have to be that. But the first thing you need to do is prove that you've been able to serve that community that you chartered for, which is why I'm trying, what I'm trying to get you guys to see is that it's not a fast process, right? Okay, and I'd say if we made a mistake, we tried to help the Bitcoin community too fast, and had we gone in a little bit slower, it would have been with a lot better results. And I'll take a hit, right? Back row, and then and back, and then here. Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned that everything you're doing is open source, and that a lot of the different credit unions around the country also have very academic practice departments.
But,
Is there something you can go to figure out what stack you're using so we can help out?
so yes and no. I'll say what's open source. What I mean by open source is kind of what you don't mean by open source, so I apologize for that. What I mean is that anything that we've written, any publications that we've done, our website, is completely open to anybody else. Like if you come in and say, hey, I want to build another website and I want to build it like yours, but you know, slightly differently, that's all yours. As far as the back end, right, the online banking system, right, the way credit unions work is, or a lot of them work, is they have these things called QSOs. And a QSO is essentially a bunch of credit unions getting together and saying, we're going to share technology, like what no big bank would ever do. So ours is a place called CU Answers. They're based out of Grand Rapids. They're, for the credit union world, pretty advanced and smart. And essentially what we do is, a bunch of credit unions got together, pooled all their resources, created CU Answers, and then essentially got the results from that. The good part about that is you can open up a credit union and bam, you got credit union in a box, right? You got processors and everything else you need. You don't have to write anything, right? The bad part about it is you have to please another 200 credit unions at this point if you want to make changes, and so changes are really slow, which is why I'm saying if you guys came in, you could be, you know, your own QSO. And write your own software, because you can do that. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not rocket science, but remember, you're dealing with people's money. So the level of security has got to be huge for that, right? And that's why these things are really slow and cumbersome. But yeah, I mean, I think CU Answers people, I think they would like to do a lot more than they can, but remember, they're owned by 200 credit unions, right? So you have to get 200 credit unions to sort of agree to the things that they're doing. But they're doing some cool stuff. Not cool enough yet for you guys, but for our purposes, yeah.
So you said your first membership includes people who are members of organizations that help out in those areas.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And you are an organization that helps out in those areas. So surely that means anyone who joins you can come out with your 20% of people who aren't in that area and they are now a member of an organization that helps.
You would think. You would think, but it doesn't actually work like that. What happens is, you know, I think the NCUA, remember I told you, keeps getting sued by banks, right? And the banks will come in and say, wait a second, you're creating a national credit union, you're creating something. Okay, so these things are looked at fairly carefully, and there are letters that go out about them, and you have to meet these criteria. So, for example, the Pentagon Credit Union formed an association, and you can join that. You can go online, look at their association, and figure out the dues structure. So we're waiting for clarification on what our version of that is and how we can accept people. But now we can accept you because you can be a non-member, right, and come on in. So it does get complex, and it is something that needs to be looked at fairly carefully. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah.
You answered most of it, but I was wondering if you guys, it was about the back-end infrastructure stuff. Have you
Yep.
written any of your own stuff, or are you just using all the QSO?
We use all the QSO stuff, but what someone was bringing up is we could actually do some things like force you to go through our website, right, before you ever even got to the online banking, and then do double identification there. So, because for example, the website, believe it or not, this is advanced for credit unions, right? So you sign in, and then you get asked a security question every single time, right? That to us is high levels of security, because nobody else does that. So we could actually do some things, and I'm open to suggestions. I mean, really, there's no bullshit. That's my email address, and if you guys come on and say, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should think about this, I'm happy to, I will answer you, right? Even if it's just to say, I wish I could, right? Please, I love whatever you can tell me. Yes, three things, yeah. One.
So there are limitations to how you have to act as a credit union. Are there limitations to how you interact with other credit unions?
In what respect? No.
We go start 50 credit unions and then all group together.
Oh, it's awesome.
We just do whatever
Yes.
we want together.
Yes. Well, that's pretty much, that's kind of what we're hoping for, is to have, like, people with like-minded ideas, right, join together, and then our fields of memberships join together, right, and then we can sort of cross-service each other. So if I understood the question correctly, that's the best thing in the world. Yep. Technically, the answer is yes. Will they allow you to do it? Probably not, because they're afraid of being sued by the banks, right? So you have to find some creative way to do that. So you could probably do the IT workers. That one may actually be okay. Anybody who uses the internet, they'll probably say no, because then you'll have people all around the world, right? Use that. But for example, one of the things we really wanted to do, because it's a community we like, another community we like, is not-for-profit workers. So there's actually a credit union trying to charter right now in California and Santa Rosa, who that's their thing. There's another one who's trying to charter a credit union for farm workers. Like, doesn't matter where you are, farm workers. You just have to be a farm worker, right? So, yep.
So the big banks I like the community and aspect of credit unions, but if you're providing credit cards to folks, you're still going through payment processors like Visa, MasterCard, American Express.
Yep. Unfortunately, right now, nowhere. So we have a really cool debit card, which I left at home somehow or another, or I lost. I don't know, but I'll figure out what the hell happened to it. It looks really cool though. Just trust me, I designed it. So sometime I'll show it to you. Like, so if you email me, I'll show you what it looks like. Anyway, so the problem was, that's actually, honestly, I mean, on a personal story, right? That was our biggest delay. So we opened in November, right? And but because they told us to open tomorrow, right? And we didn't have all our products ready, and we had almost all our products ready, including international ACHs and really cool stuff. Like if you want to send money to Japan or whatever it is, we can do it for $5. And everyone charges you 50, right? But the debit card portion of it took us 6 months to do. Why? Because you had to go through Visa. And it's just, we're small potatoes. If we were $1 billion credit union or $5 billion credit union, it would have gone quickly. We're small, and you get put on the back of the list, and it took us 6 months to do. So unfortunately, no. I wish there was a way around it, but there's not. But that's what get back to the Dawala, right? Dawala is a good alternative to that, and I think that there really will be another iteration of Dawala, and we'd love to help out on that if we can. Yeah.
You're saying how big banks love to sue, but
NCUA, National Credit Union Administration, in a sense was.
For a credit union,
Mm. No, no, they can't do that. What they can do is they can sue you on field of membership issues, right? They can basically just, they want to make your life live miserable. So,
You said 300 credit unions are closed. Has that been due to suing by the bank?
what it's due as is they're small. Mainly the smaller ones have been closing, right? And there are really two reasons. One is technology, right? Because a lot of these credit unions started in church basements or small community groups, right? And they just didn't have, they couldn't offer the services that are necessary. So I see some mass exodus. Is there any other like final 2-3 questions? You're trying to get away with not buying me a drink to answer these things. Damn it. I thought I had that scam right. Really well done. All right. 2 more questions. Good. Yeah.
Do you think it's good to start, or because of that field of membership, that keeps it more in line with the needs of your community? Whereas if your membership was everyone, then you wouldn't be able to make everyone happy. So there should be different credit unions for different types of communities.
Absolutely.
And then if you're a member of one and you want to offer services that maybe if you expanded your membership to a slightly different community that you're not a specialty in, but maybe another credit union is, you could then proxy their services or point them in that direction.
Yeah, and credit unions help each other out with that stuff all the time. I'm referring to people all the time to the credit union, local credit unions, right? So I mean, I'm perfectly fine if you don't open up with us and you open up with local. Great, So yes, we really get to know our community. Okay, all right. So there seems to be a changeover. People are going. Thank you.